Oftentimes, we get so fixated on wanting to be like everybody else. But what if we thought about how this difference in us is our freaking superpower?
I am Judd Lienhard, former Army Ranger, college linebacker. I've been a strength and performance coach for over 15 years. Let's get into it.
Logan Aldridge. I had certain expectations before I worked out today of what you could and couldn't do, and those expectations were quickly dispelled.
I'm a competitor at heart.
Yeah.
Every day, what would get me up out of bed is saying somebody else is working harder than you, Logan. Somebody else is working harder. I'm so interested in getting as close to and flirting with maximum human potential. It was just a blood grenade that went off. And they said, Logan, unfortunately, we're gonna have to amputate your left arm. The most important statement that has shaped me into who I am. She said, Logan, it's just an arm. That was a massive shift in abundance, recognizing, I'm thankful to be alive. I am conscious. Okay, I'm going to remember all this. And I did. We grow through what we go through. Doesn't matter what it is. This is no limitation.
Yeah.
It's just different now. What can create a little bit of mental momentum? That's the fuel for my success machine. Like, tell me I can't, or hate on me for saying that no way you could do that. Now I have to.
Hey, thank you guys for listening. I just wanted to take a brief break to ask you guys a couple questions. First, are you happy with your current state of athleticism? Second, do you feel like you used to maybe be an athlete, but you've lost some of that athleticism and you feel like you just can't regain it due to either age or injuries? For those of you that don't know my background, for over a decade, I was a speed, strength, and performance coach for dozens of elite athletes. And I used that experience to build a program called MASS Method. It stands for Movement, Athleticism, Strength, and Speed. It's how I train, and it's how I've been able to hang on to a lot of my performance and athleticism I had in my youth by tweaking the program in a way that accounts for some of my current limitations and limitations that we all face as we age. So whether you're, in your early 20s in your prime and you want to optimize the athleticism you already have, or you're getting older like most of us and you want to regain some of that athleticism, this program is perfect for you. It's very affordable. It's available exclusively on my training app, and that can be found either on my website or on my socials. My website is juddlienhard.com, JUDDLIENHARD.com. That will be in the show notes too, if you need to spell that, help spelling that again. But there's 14 different training blocks right now. I add new training blocks several times a year. Right now, there's over a year's worth of training in that app. You can try it for free for a week. Also, I have options available for people that don't have a lot of time or equipment to spend, minimal equipment and limited time options. There's literally something in there for everybody. Some of my favorite feedback is when people tell me that they do this workout with their entire family, or that they've done my workout now for a couple months, and for the first time maybe in their life, they're pain-free, or for the first time in decades, they're regaining some of their athleticism that they thought they had lost forever. It just builds me up and makes me excited to share this opportunity with you guys. And I'd love it if you just gave it a try and just see what it's all about. Try it for free for a week, cancel if you want. I guarantee you're going to love it. And I hope you guys enjoy the rest of the show. All right. I have the honor and privilege today of being here with Logan Aldridge, who, if you guys don't know who that is, he is one of the world's best adaptive athletes. His resume is ridiculous, and I think we need to go over that a little bit just to demonstrate to people exactly what you've been able to accomplish in your life, which is pretty cool. And also today, what I want to get out of this for people is something they can use in their day-to-day lives, because while the obstacle you've had to overcome might be unique, the tenets and the philosophies that you've used to live such a successful and amazing life might be applicable, or will be applicable, to a large spectrum of people with all different kinds of limitations, either temporary and permanent. But I'd like to welcome you, man, and thanks for being here.
Well, thank you so much, Joe. I mean, truly, dream come true to be here. Long time fan and follower of yours. And likewise, I think you're exactly that for me and so many others as well. Your story and your background, and I know I'm here to talk about me. This is your podcast. I'm going to answer all your questions, but
I'll talk about me on my podcast. I ain't above talking about me on my podcast.
I need to ask you questions, man. I mean, you are so good at delivering so much information, but I think a lot of people want to know a little bit more about you too and your background. But listen, I'm not one to run the podcast here. I'm happy to share and talk, but you got to tell me when to shut up, because I'll just keep going and talking. But yes, in all seriousness, it is truly an honor to be here, and I think I'm so fortunate that at the young age, the surrounding I had, the family, the people around me, the supporters I had, gave me the lens and perspective to look at what was happening to me in this change of losing the limb, my left arm at 13. And through my experience and perspective, I kind of felt like, hey, there's a general template here. There's a general idea, framework about when anything unexpected, unforeseen happens in your life, how can you attack it? How can you overcome it? And it actually turned out to be one of the best things when you look back in hindsight that happened to you. And it made you grow through what you go through and who you are today. So I'm excited to share.
You're here to talk about adaptability and resilience, but right away, you got into one of my other core concepts, which is gratitude. So right off the bat, you showed gratitude for your helpers in life, the advantages you had, which that in itself is a unique thing. And I think it's like a critical ingredient to being successful in life.
Exactly. We have... Life is choices. You have the choice. You can be in a good mood. You can be in a bad mood. You get to choose that. So if you can default to choose to be in a bad mood, why can't you default to choose to be in a good one? And if you do that, I think what can start to happen is that negative energy or mindset that can come up when life happens to you. You get cut off in traffic, an unexpected email or new thing, whatever. Life is complicated and hard.
Unexpected emails, man.
I love emailing. Tell you, talking to a one-handed guy. I'm over here just a keyboard warrior on the emails. No, I wish that's one thing I wish I never had to do. But no, that's exactly right. You can't be angry, mad, frustrated, and be grateful at the same time. And I learned that at a very young age. That's exactly what my mother instilled in me when the accident happened, and it's the motto and mantra I lead with today, and I try to help other people find whatever that language is for them that they need, that statement, that phrase, that memory that will immediately shift you into abundance, into being grateful, into recognizing how incredible it is for us to be alive in this world right now.
So I feel like that leads into one of the core concepts to being adaptable and resilient is mindset.
Yeah.
So what are some things about, first of all, let's back up. Because some people might not know who you are and what you've been able to accomplish. So let's go into some of your accomplishments first. So, how did the accident happen? And then what had you done before and then since that accident?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Great point. So I'm from Raleigh, North Carolina, born and raised in Raleigh, North Carolina. Older brother, a couple years older, two very active parents. We always were out and about on the lake. We had a lake house on the North Carolina-Virginia border when I was very young, and I fell in love with wakeboarding at a really young age. My parents were, water skiers, slalom skiing, kneeboarding, all that stuff, and I enjoyed that too. But at like 8, 9 years old, I saw somebody on a wakeboard boat riding through our cove doing flips and spins and stuff, and my jaw dropped, and I said, I've got to try that. I'm always into extreme sports. Loved surfing, wakeboarding, snowboarding, skateboarding, X Games stuff as a kid. I was just that wild rebel kid who wanted to be doing all the extreme stuff. So when I found wakeboarding, I fell in love with it. The access we had, the benefit we had to having a lake house and me getting to spend a lot of time up there and having a friend a few docks down who was that competitive, good wakeboarder I saw riding up and down, kind of took me under his wing and trained me. We were fortunate to have a great wakeboard boat, and I was trying to become competitive. I'm a competitor at heart, and I wanted to, at a young age, get into the circuit of professional and competitive wakeboarding. And so at 13 years old, we were wakeboarding a typical Saturday evening training set as the sun's going down, the water's glassy. And we just finished riding, and my buddy who just lived about 5 docks down from me, maybe 100 yards, dropped him off at his dock. And if you're familiar with a wakeboard boat, or for those who aren't, a wakeboard boat has a tower that goes over the middle of it, and that's where the rope anchors that you hold on to when you're riding back there. And a wakeboard rope has no elasticity. It's just a thin, this one specifically, plastic-coated rope, so that there's no expanding and when you're cutting really hard into the wake. So at the end of wakeboarding, at the end of the day, it was my job to put away life jackets, pull in the rope. And as I was doing so, I used that technique that we use for like an extension cord or ropes, where we hold our arm up at 90 degrees and loop it over the thumb, under the elbow. And I had a couple loops like that. And as my eyes followed the rope back over the back platform of the boat out into the water, I saw it kind of drifted underneath the back platform of the boat. Again, for context, wakeboard boats are inboard motors. The motor's actually, the propeller's pretty far up underneath the middle of the hull of the boat. The back of the boat is where there's this platform on the water where you put on your wakeboard before you jump in. And These boats now have these wedges back there, this thing that gets dropped down to help pull the back of the boat down to make a bigger wake so you can just get all the air. So sometimes that rope might get caught on a little thing back there near the platform, and you just got to, undo it. So I just thought nothing of it, but like, hey, hold on, Dad, the rope's caught underneath the back. Give me a second. And as soon as I said that to him, not thinking about how I was holding it, the end of the rope being connected to the tower and just going out the back, we were just putting along. We were just boating gear, just cruising to get to our dock, about 60 yards away at this point. And right when I noticed and I said, oh, Dad, the rope's underneath the boat. And he's only, 2-3 feet from me at the driving cockpit of the boat here. As soon as the words came out of my mouth, he went to go, oh, okay, to pull the boat back into neutral, to turn it off for me to go back there and take the tanglement off or whatever. As soon as the words came out of my mouth, it was much further under the boat than I thought. And that propeller did catch the rope in that split second, 10th of a second. And when it did, even with the boat just being in gear and that propeller spinning those RPM so fast, it coiled that rope quickly around that propeller, causing that tension to come all the way up through the rope, and the anchor point being to the tower, my arm with the loops in between the two, instant, really strong, tight jerk that slipped that rope off of my thumb, breaking the thumb real quick, and then cinching down around that bicep, mid upper arm area. And that tightness was so fast and so tight, it just felt like a little bit of a tug. I'm still standing right there on the back of the boat, a little bit of a tug, and I'm standing there and I'm looking at the rope now, a tight rope from the tower. Looks like it's going like through the middle of my arm, on the inside of my bicep, and coming out the outside of my upper arm. And then it's tight to the back platform of the boat. It's tight for a few seconds, and then it releases. It pops because it was really tight on the propeller, and then it broke it. That moment, my mom's on the front of the boat. We have some family friends. My dad's right there. Obviously, he sees what happened. I feel what happened, and I'm confused. I'm like, what was that? My mom says, Wesley, his arm. And he steps over just a few feet away. And no pain at this moment, just kind of like, what the hell was that? What just happened? And he grabs the rope and goes to unwind it around my arm. And as soon as he does that, as you could imagine, that rope had tightened so fast and had so much force, it's cut through the flesh, the muscles, the tendons, and the artery right down to the bone. It was basically coiled around my bone. And when he unwound it, it was just a blood grenade that went off. I mean, a 23-foot white wakeboard boat turned red in half a second. It was literally like, the movie 300 where blood just flies across the screen. It was insane. And at 13, this scrawny little 13-year-old kid who's just finishing up a Saturday in the middle of the summer, knowing that, we're just going to go grill out, eat some burgers, wake up tomorrow, do another training set. Everything in your life at 13 you think is just guaranteed. You're invincible. There's nothing that can go wrong.
We don't understand the fragility of life at that age.
God, no. And as we kind of shouldn't. It's kind of beautiful and necessary from that perspective. And so my first thought was, whoa, this is the realest dream I've ever had. This is crazy. Long story short, in the sense of me remembering every detail of this, like it's yesterday. And it's been, 20 years ago, is we get to the dock. I tell my dad, this is a dream. Bring me up to my bedroom and I'll see myself. And I'll be like, whoa, I'll wake up.
Did your dad know to tourniquet it, or how did the
Yes. Yeah. So it's, to not forget that point, the most important part of why I'm here today.
Yeah.
As soon as he unwound that rope, ripped his shirt off, wrapped it around, pulled it tight, stuck a rod through, twisted. I mean, intense.
You saved your life.
Yes.
Yeah.
I would have bled out. The artery coming right out of your heart into that left arm, severed. I would have bled out within a couple minutes for sure. It took about an hour for the ambulance to get to us. Hindsight's always 20.
And you were conscious the entire time?
I was conscious the whole time. And I was sitting in the driveway waiting on this ambulance. And where we were, we could have gotten in the car and driven, and within an hour and a half been at a, children's hospital. But it's so unexpected. It's such a traumatic moment in that situation. We were trying to figure out what to do. What's the right thing to do? We're talking to family friends who are doctors, telling us, wait for the ambulance. And we did. And I don't regret anything that we did. Everything is the way it should have been. It was a part of a plan. But we waited, and that ambulance took a while to get there. And by the time it did, I was realizing that, okay, this is real, first of all. I wasn't in my bed when my dad took me to my bedroom, and I started to recognize the reality of the situation. This is actually happening. And I started to wonder, okay, my left arm, I'm left-handed. I've got
Oh,
this.
you were left-handed?
I was left-handed.
Oh, my God.
I've got this thing that happened around my upper arm. I can't feel it. Like when he unwound it and put that tourniquet on, there was no movement in the fingers. The hand started to turn white, and then the arm started to turn black and blue. And I remember feeling something in my lap as we're sitting and waiting for the ambulance, like a weight, like a sack in my lap. And I felt in my brain, as if my arm was externally rotated, like I was holding my arm out to the side, and it was in my lap. And I remember saying to my dad, take that towel or whatever's in my lap out of my lap. He said, look, that's your arm. That's when my brain said, oh, there's no connection or proprioception of what this is and where it is.
Yeah.
Like this is foreign now all of a sudden. And that's when the brain started to ponder, what if, okay, this might have to be amputated, because the bone was still fine. So it was intact, but no sensation. We get into that ambulance, and it's local volunteer EMS, and they bring us to the local community hospital that is going to do whatever they can to make sure I'm stable. But on that ambulance ride, my mom got in with me, and I'm asking her, Dad's in the car driving behind.
Are you just in excruciating amount of pain?
No pain. No pain at this point.
Just because the nerves have been severed and everything.
Yeah. Just adrenaline or whatever it might be, but there was no pain. Just a ton of curiosity of what is happening. And that was the moment I started to vocalize my concern for what is happening, what might happen. And I said,
that's such a hard age to lose a limb too, because if you lose it when you're younger, you don't understand the magnitude, and you just kind of forget the time before you had it.
Right.
And you just learn to live with one arm like it's how life should be. Or if you lose it when you're older, you can maybe put some things into context.
Exactly.
That age of 10 to 15 is such a hard time for something traumatic like that to happen.
No matter who you are, that's you're figuring out yourself.
Yeah.
Puberty and everything else.
And you have
becoming a man, becoming a woman.
Like.
Yes, there's so much you're learning and growing through with your emotions and your physical nature and everything. And it was in many ways a massive blessing. But you're right. I have met so many folks that are, congenital amputees born that way, and it's just I don't think of myself missing a limb or anything. It's just the way it is. Yeah. And folks, when it happens at a very young age, when it's, under 10, you don't have enough development to understand that use. And so you just think this is what it is. You're right. That was the moment when I asked my mom, I was contemplating they might amputate this. And I said, Mom, what if, I'm left-handed? What if I lose my arm? And the most important statement that has shaped me into who I am was the words that came out of her mouth next. Simple, but incredibly effective, and reiterates the concept of being grateful and the lens at which we look at the world. And she said, Logan, it's just an arm. I, with time and 20 years since, and growing and maturing myself, cannot fathom what that must have been like for a parent.
Because I'm sure she was, all those things were going through her mind too.
That's what I think
it was. What is my son going to go through? What's his life going to look like? How's he going to handle this? Is he scared? And, she probably had to tell herself that it's just an arm.
Exactly. It allowed her in that moment to recognize the silver lining, the abundance of the situation, which is he's conscious. He's conscious, he's alive.
Yeah.
Okay, an arm. All right. Don't take a life and we'll let an arm go all day long. Yeah. That immediately connected in my brain without having to say it, without her having to say, Logan, you're not dead, so be grateful for that. A statement of it's just an arm, I think was very much medicinal for her and her brain in that moment. And it changed every bit of the what ifs, the I don't know, the what about this, that the brain is going crazy wondering because it's so uncertain and unexpected and the future's unseen now. We don't know what's about to happen, what the outcome's about to be. So that immediately shifted my brain. In that moment, this 13-year-old boy laying there saying, hearing his mother say it's just an arm made me think, it is. Okay, yeah, it's my left arm. Oh, I have this right arm. I haven't used it that much. It's not the one that's my go-to. And I remember just looking at it and being like, I might really find out a lot about this right arm now. Yeah. And that was a massive shift in abundance, recognizing, I'm thankful to be alive. I am conscious. Okay, I'm going to remember all this. And I did. We went into that local hospital. They quickly said, this is level 1 trauma. We can't do anything. Put back in the ambulance, called UNC and Duke Children's Hospital. UNC said we got Medevac Tar Heel 1 in the air on the way, go to these coordinates. I mean, this was like something out of a movie. This was actually, even with all things considered, I even had enough of a I don't know, sense of humor, if you will, to be like, this is why we're riding in an ambulance. I'm bumping in a field. We're bouncing around. The door's open. The sun's just setting. They pull me out on the stretcher. I see this badass Tar Heel 1 Medevac helicopter come and land. And I'm like, yo, is that for me? And they're like, yeah, you're about to go on a ride. And I was like, this is badass. And they thought it was wild that I was having that sort of sense of humor in the moment. But again, I wasn't in pain. It didn't hurt. And it was going to be what it was going to be. And I felt safe enough to know that these folks I'm going to be taken care of. And at that point, you know, parents are losing their mind because they're like, all right, he's got to go. Y'all can't go in the helicopter. Yeah. So they hop in the car and they're hauling ass.
The hardest part.
Yeah, they're hauling ass hospital. And I get in there and UNC Children's Hospital, amazing. Love them. It's like family to me. You know, I get in there, they fly me in and right into, you know, assessing and then going into operation. And that first surgery was just meant to, you know, clean the wound, create, you know, stabilize me, and then try to introduce blood flow back to the limbs. Because with that injury, with that severed of the muscles and artery, everything, no blood flow, obviously, to those muscles. And they were very attentive to that window of opportunity to reintroduce blood flow, to give us a chance for limb salvage here, or really full, you know, rehabilitation, recovery. And we were flirting with it. We were getting close to that like 7-8 hour window since injury, since lack of circulation. So they were very, we got to go quick. Artery out of my right leg, put it back into the arm, reattach that artery for blood flow, and then pull me out and stabilize me and monitor. We're monitoring. That arm's swollen, looks like a, you know, huge swollen sausage.
Yeah, and there's no venous going out.
Nothing, yeah. Using ultrasound to try to hear some sort of pulse and, you know, having this hopeful, let's just hear something. A couple days go by, not hearing anything. Go back into the surgery to cut some slits down the forearm to let the skin expand, to let some pressure release. And that's when they concluded. They said, oh, these muscles are dead. Yeah. And if you keep going down this path, this can start to get nasty with gangrene and the infection of these dead muscles start to going back up into the bloodstream. So this was when they pulled me out and just brought me back to consciousness. And I saw my mom, dad, and brother standing over me and our physician, our doctor, standing there crying. And they said, Logan, unfortunately, we're going to have to amputate your left arm. My first thought when I heard that was, how am I going to play lacrosse again? Which I find funny because, like, I like lacrosse. It was fun, but it wasn't like the thing. I mean, I loved it. It was great. It was a sport I played. Love wakeboarding. It was probably the thing I really lived for at that moment. But it was my first thought. And it wasn't, oh, no, I can't play. It was immediately like, okay, how am I going to play lacrosse?
So that's a subtle but important distinction. You didn't say, man, I can't ever play lacrosse again. You asked yourself a question that you wanted a legit answer to. How am I going to be able to play lacrosse again? Versus, I can't play lacrosse again.
Yes.
And that one question is something I feel like people just don't ever ask themselves when something happens.
It was before any of this information and understanding of personal development and mindset and mental strength. It truly was me, I think, in desperation, and also just, I think it's just who I am naturally. There's no fixed mindset in me. Everything is like, ooh, this could turn into something. It was just this, nothing was black and white. It was all just this gray area of what will be, how will we navigate? So nothing was, oh, I can't do that. That'll never happen again. I'll never be able to. Those thoughts, and I'm not trying to sound like, oh, he's just so positive. No, I'm not. Listen, I'm human. I'll get negative, and I have excuses for things all the time. But for some reason, in that scenario, in that surrounding environment, everything was, there will be a way. There will be a way.
Don't like optimists.
Yeah.
Because it's like, it'll be fine. Everything's great. It's like, no, and it's not great. But how can we make it better? What can we do with what we have?
Yes.
Because we can't just close our eyes and act like everything's great, because it's not great sometimes.
Right.
That's not a great circumstance for you. But it's like, how can we make the most of what we have? What can I do with what I have? Because it's like, what do I do now?
That's practical,
it's
right?
Practical.
That's practical and realistic.
And then having confidence that, like, whatever it is, there will be a way. I'm going to find a way. Yeah.
No matter what. No matter what, in whatever moment and horrible situation we're in, this too shall pass. It's not forever. This is just the reality of it. And sometimes I am delusionally optimistic, but more so I try to remind myself that nothing's permanent forever. Okay, the loss of a limb, I don't have that anymore. But that doesn't mean I'll never write again. Doesn't mean I'll never play lacrosse or throw the ball again.
How long did it take you to learn how to write with your...
That was an interesting opportunity of an example of how I realized my life was going to start to go quickly after this, which was expectations were going to be placed on me on what I can and can't do. And no fault of anybody is what we do. It's how we survive as a species. Yeah. We expect what the weather's going to be like when we go outside. We have an expectation of what I had
certain expectations before we worked out today of what you could and couldn't do, and those expectations were quickly dispelled.
Well, and it's how we stay alive. If we're walking down and we see something that looks scary, we expect that to be dangerous. We make an adjustment to save ourselves, right? Yeah. So expectations are important. They're necessary. But when it comes to that being a prejudgment we place on ourselves or one another, I was quickly realizing, I said, oh, these are going to turn out to be limiting. These are going to be self-imposed limiting beliefs that I'll either put on myself or that my environment is going to put on me. And so the first one being writing.
So that's another subtle but key distinction is first you asked yourself a question rather than telling yourself a statement. Mm-hmm. And then you questioned your beliefs, your limiting beliefs, and the validity of those beliefs.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think I'm just too curious. I'm too curious to accept any quote unquote fact or opinion or expectation as the truth or as the answer. I have to find out. And for better or for worse, sometimes as a kid that was being a rebel and the parents say, you can't go out past 11. I said, well, what if I go out at 1 a.m.? I was a little bit of a rebel. I kind of pushed against, authority.
I can't count to 11. I only have 5 fingers now.
Yeah, exactly. I never even knew it. But no, that's so much of the way in which I saw that example of writing in the hospital. It was my mom's birthday while I was in the hospital. And, after the amputation, they kept me for a while. I was in there for 2.5 weeks. So moved into pediatric ICU and we took over that thing. I had so many friends and family that was coming to visit. And my brother, he's like a bit of a goofball, so he was running around with a urine cup full of apple juice, sipping on it, freaking the nurses out. Like, dude, we were stressing this medical staff out. It was hilarious. It was fun, but started to have these OTs, occupational therapists, coming in and thinking about ways in which, Logan, you can start using your hand even while you're still here recovering in pediatric ICU. And my brother and my dad, had him bring in a grip trainer. Had him bring in those Chinese meditation balls so I could start rolling them in my hand, clockwise, counterclockwise. I do that for 20 minutes, and then I go to the trainer and grip until I could not get another rep.
Another subtle distinction, start immediately.
Have to. What can you take action on?
Yeah.
What can create a little bit of mental momentum? Mental, like checking a box. Like, okay, I can do that. So if I can do that.
You said something last night at dinner, rather than waiting for the conditions to be perfect, you start now. Start when they're not perfect.
I love this mentality and analogy of being lost in the woods. And if you're lost in the woods and you have no idea which way to go, you have 360 options if you think about degrees of which way you could go, right? Endless. Yeah. It's paralysis by analysis. You have so many options, you don't know which one. So oftentimes we get stuck. We're stuck there. Mm. What if you just go in a direction? Who knows? It could be the completely wrong opposite. You could be walking towards death and danger, but at least you're walking towards something. Mm-hmm. At least you're checking a box to figure out, and that you might get there or get halfway or towards it and go, whoa, I need to do a complete 180.
And it's funny, and every time you do something wrong, you learn.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you don't repeat wrongs if you're smart about it and you actually learn from it. But I see people all the time, and it's like, yeah, if they bounce off enough walls, they're going to hit their target eventually.
Exactly.
And they just bounce off walls, man. Yeah. It's like, oh, look at, they're doing this stupid, they're doing that wrong. I was like, yeah, but he's moving. And something that's dynamic is going to hit something eventually.
I think that's really important. Momentum. Just some movement in some direction is better than none. And you'll figure it out in exactly that point. And that's where that, statement I love to say, which is just sounds corny, but it's so true, is that we grow through what we go through. It doesn't matter what it is, good or bad, all of it. You learn something about yourself. Awesome, and frankly, the worse and harder and more uncomfortable, the more growth. So what a great way to look back and connect those dots. And that's what happened. I recognize, folks are going to expect that I can't write. I can't write. Folks, like, they're telling my parents and my my teachers at school. I'm so fortunate. I went to an incredible school. There were teachers visiting in the hospital, students, friends, peers visiting, and thinking about what can we do to accommodate. This is summer, Logan. I'm going into my 8th grade year, last year of middle school before high school. And what can we do to help Logan? It was 2004 when it happened. So can we get him a laptop? It was before laptops were in school. We'll have note takers in all of his classes. We know he's really going to struggle to write. So, we'll do everything we can. And occupational therapists saying, he might really struggle to write for the rest of his life. It might be something hard. Even at 13, and I'm not knocking this OT or any of the staff, it was world class and most thoughtful. Like I said, these folks were like family. But it was this quick moment where I said, oh, I see how things are going to go now. People are going to assume, and in no place of malicious intent, but they're going to assume what I can and can't do.
That you're a victim that needs help.
And if I just accept these assumptions, these expectations of, oh, hey, I can't write, so will you write this for me? What a missed opportunity to explore and be curious about what might be possible, what you may be capable of. So that's all I needed to hear. That's the fuel for my success machine. Like, tell me I can't, or hate on me for saying that no way you could do that. Now I have to.
So you did go on to play the cross. You probably just sat on the bench. You probably didn't play very much, right, with one arm?
Exactly right.
Yeah, but it's good. They let you on the team.
Tell me that, and I would have did exactly what I did. It's exactly
he wears
right,
the uniform. So were you any good?
Even if, what I think I did? I think I might have created that narrative in my own head, kind of like in Michael Jordan's documentary. I think there were moments when I did do that. I used a narrative that wasn't even true to help fuel me to being like, I'm going to prove that wrong.
So that's another point. I want to stop there. You have to find your fuel. You have to find your motivation.
Yes.
Right.
Yes.
Ask yourself a question. Question your limiting beliefs.
Yes.
Right.
Exactly.
Find a fuel.
Yes.
Right?
That's what that was. That was the best example, too, was the writing. I did the alphabet while in the hospital. I wrote my mom a birthday card, and yes, it looked like chicken scratch. It was barely legible, but it was
probably like my handwriting now.
That's what it was. That's the example. Taking the first step, lost in the woods. That's what it was. I just chose, you know what? I'm going to choose. I'm going to decide if this is, and that was the momentum. Then that led to, can I get dressed in the morning? Can I brush my teeth? I'm going to shower one-handed well. Okay, I'm going to put on my clothes. Can I tie my shoes? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, can I pick up a lacrosse stick again? Okay, can I get back on the wakeboard again? This rolling snowball of encouragement and accomplishment and momentum and mental fortitude to be like, let's find out.
So last night, to dispel the mystery, you turned out to be a really good lacrosse player with one hand. And you even told me some ways you could use your disability as an advantage, because people thinking you couldn't make shots and do things, thinking you were limited to only one side of play, and developing shots that allowed you to take advantage and turn that disability into an advantage for you.
Absolutely. Yeah. Some of our generally perceived externally or even in our own thoughts, limitations or differences, or what makes us different from everybody else in terms of ability or look. Oftentimes we get so fixated on wanting to be like everybody else. Mm-hmm. But what if we thought about how this difference in us is our freaking superpower? And that's what I just decided in the hospital and in my life today. And it's not me being delusionally optimistic, but it's me determining that I'm going to choose to be proud of who I am and how I look, and exude joy and confidence and excitement in what I do. I said in the hospital to my mom, I said, I'm going to make having one arm cool. I want to make it badass. And frankly, someone about 9 months before me had done that. A massive idol to me. Her name's Bethany Hamilton. And for those unfamiliar with Bethany, a Hawaii shark attack survivor. That movie Soul Surfer, her book and movie Soul Surfer. I was, as I was saying earlier, active, very active, extreme sports, love surfing. Was literally in Wrightsville Beach, North Carolina, surfing the day before I went to the lake and the accident happened. And I followed her circuit closely. Her and Alana Blanchard, I loved what they were doing. I mean, she was incredible. And so I was very familiar with her story, and that happened about 9 months prior. My best friend at the time sent her fan page an email saying, hey, I know it's very different, and it wasn't the beast of the ocean that took his arm, but my friend was doing his water sport that he was trying to go pro in and competing in, wakeboarding, and he just lost his arm. And I just think you all, opposite ends of the country, but like pretty cool how similar and similar age and all this. And she got thousands of those a day. And this one, her brother said, I think you should read this one. And she did. And she called me when I was in that hospital.
No way.
Yeah,
really
she
cool.
called and hey, it's going to be all right. You're going to get through it. You're not alone.
That's really cool.
It's all going to be
that
good.
Says a lot about her too,
Massive. Changed the way in which I saw the opportunity for this to become something, because she was doing it too.
Yeah.
She was making have one arm be freaking badass. And that was super inspiring and encouraging. And that's for everybody to know, no matter how unique or different you think you are, you're not alone. No one, you're never alone. And even when you're having those thoughts, or it's just a mental health struggle, you're not alone. Other people are too. So don't ever think that no one gets it. There's no one like you.
So
in your situation.
another point, you're not alone. You're not the first person that has gone through this, and you're not the only person going through this.
Yeah.
And
I'm so fortunate to have had such a replicated example in Bethany. But if you didn't have it, you got to believe it.
That helps you decide where to put your eyes, because where to put your eyes, that's where your mind will go.
Right.
You can look towards the things that you can no longer do, and the people that have had this disability and that don't have the lives that you would want now. Mm-hmm. Or you can look towards people that have whatever disability, if you want to call it that have lived amazing lives.
Yeah.
So where your eyes go, your heart and mind goes.
Yeah.
And you chose to look towards the right direction.
Yeah. That is very elegant way of saying that. I appreciate you saying that, Joe. But yes, you're right.
Missouri Public School. Shout out.
5 stars. But you're right. That's honestly, in terms of keeping it simple, that's what I said. There's a choice here. Yeah. There's a choice. There's a fork in the road. You have 2 choices, black and white in these choices. The choice is, woe is me. I can't. I need help with everything. Mm-hmm. This is help me. Or the other choice is, I'm going to figure it out. I'm going to choose to make this be a cool thing. I'm going to choose to make this be an asset, a benefit, a superpower.
Yeah.
What makes me unique and different to be a great thing. And that was just the lens. And to me, it wasn't a tough choice. It was, of course. Because you get to do this life one time, you get one shot at it. And this is the card you dealt, whatever it is what it is. So I don't think there's any value to pondering or wondering what if or why me or what can I do to stop it from being like that? No, it is what it is. So let's move forward. And make the most of it.
So let's go over some things, some accomplishments you were able to do post amputation. A list of accomplishments.
Oh gosh, this is my least favorite part. But I don't like talking about myself like that. But I'll say it led me to realizing how truly unlimited human potential and ability is.
So excellent high school lacrosse player, played lacrosse in college.
I went
on the Northeast.
I went back to, I think what was really massive for me and for my peers and my family to see like, oh shit, Logan's going to be fine. He's going to do all the things, if not more than what he would have done with 2 arms. Was 1 year after my first armiversary, as I call it, my armiversary, had all my friends. I had all my friends and family back up to the lake house. Now, we had gotten a new wakeboard boat, but we had a wakeboard boat, same brand, just a different one. My parents didn't want to keep around the whole vibe from that other boat, so we sold that one. But we got a new wakeboard boat, and I was back to riding within 6-7 months after the amputation. And I was, again, grip strength, critical, obviously, wakeboarding. It was just funny that the sports I love are very 2-arm dominant. Lacrosse and wakeboarding, like it helps a lot to have 2, but no excuse not to try with 1. So I went back to wakeboarding and was trying this trick. It's called a tantrum. It's like a heel side backflip. You come in on your heels and you hit the wake and you look over your back shoulder and you flip backwards and you land on the other wake, riding away. Been working on it for like a year when I had 2 arms. It was a big invert I was trying to get to put together this run for a competition would have done really well in. I had never landed it yet. I'd been training back for about 3 or 4 months since the amputation and have all the friends up for the armiversary party, and we go out wakeboarding, and that day I land it. I land it with a boat full of my friends and my mom and dad on the boat. It was the best moment.
That's amazing.
That
I think
showed
it's
them.
I think it's a very important point. The thing you were doing that caused the injury, you did exactly that same thing again. You didn't let fear dictate what you were going to do the rest of your life.
It's that you got to get back on that horse.
Yeah.
It's that, I raced motocross when I was young, a little kid looking like one of those bobbleheads, on those 50 cc's where the helmet's bigger than the bike almost. I raced then, and I raced up to, two-stroke 125s. And of course, every time you fell on a dirt bike, unless really, really injured, broken bones and whatnot, you got to get back on it. You got to go do one more lap. It's just that mentality. You got to get back on that horse. That last impression, that last moment isn't going to be the one that I'm afraid of or that put me in that injury. So, I mean, of course, wasn't about to go get back in the water after my arm, but in that moment. But after I'm healed up, I know the first thing I'm doing is strapping on that wakeboard.
It's funny you say motorcycle. So I was on a motorcycle probably a little younger than I should have without supervision. I had a really pretty bad accident. No like permanent damage, but it scared me. And I didn't get back on a motorcycle for a year, but I stared at that motorcycle every day and it haunted me. And I didn't have an adult in my life at that time that pushed me to do it. They were just like, well, if you're too scared, you're too scared. And when I finally got back on it, there was a lot of regret that I hadn't done that. And I remember that. So when my son, he's much younger, bicycle accident, he's had 2 pretty bad ones now that scared him, and comfort him, show grace. And,
of course.
But the one thing he's going to do is he's going to get on that bike the same day.
You have to.
You got to face what you're afraid of,
Just to overcome.
Yeah.
That last impression can't be the one you leave with. You got to show yourself that there's a place beyond that. You'll overcome that and conquer it.
Yeah.
And that's what I knew that. I knew that was going to be important. So I did that. So yes, the real moment within me and with those around me, my friends and family, that they realized, oh, we ain't got to worry. He's fine. This kid's going to be whoever and do whatever he wants. Was that moment a year later, doing a trick I hadn't been able to do with 2 arms, landing it well with 1, and then continuing to progress in wakeboarding far beyond where I was with 2. Yeah. Every type of invert you could do with 1 hand, I had mastered. Obviously, I'm not up there doing 360s and 540s that often with all the handle passes, but I progressed as far as I could single arm with wakeboarding. And I went to a competition that next summer. U.S. Wakeboarding Magazine, big wakeboarding magazine publisher, did a story on me. And in a little blurb in the bottom of that story, they said, and Logan will be going to compete in the O&P Extremity Games, this competition in Florida where he'll be competing as a wakeboarder. I didn't even know about this competition. I read this in the magazine. Was honored to be in. Yeah, I was in the 100th issue. It was such an honor as a wakeboarder. And I read that, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I am going to this. Let's go. And I went, and at this point, it's 1 year later. I'm 14. All the other competitors I'm competing against are adaptive extreme sports athletes. It was so cool. It's called the Extremity Games, and it was surfing, skateboarding, wakeboarding, rock climbing, motocross. So what a awesome exposure.
So you put yourself in an environment where you're surrounded by the right people.
High achieving, amputees, adaptive athletes, differently abled individuals from all different walks of life and places on earth. 1 year into this is the community I'm getting exposed to. Yeah. And then I go compete in that wakeboard competition against the next youngest guy was 18. He's 18, 19, 24, 27. And so very well adapted and adjusted to their amputation or condition. Yeah. And I'm just still trying to figure out. Sometimes I'm forgetting with the phantom sensation. My left arm isn't there. And I'm like going to scratch my head or pick up something. I'm it's not there. Oh yeah. But I came in 3rd at that competition.
That's crazy.
And that was, for me, crazy. That was the moment where I was like, oh, I will be able to pursue and do this is no limitation. Yeah. It's just different now. Let's just do it differently. But then, yes, to answer your question, because if you know me, I can turn one question into an hour response. But yeah, some of the accomplishments was that, and that led to a fun wakeboarding circuit and pro amateur wakeboarding circuit in the Southeast area, and did well. Lacrosse, went back to playing lacrosse and made my varsity team, and then was elected captain. And at first, I thought he was just elected captain because they're like, oh, yay, Logan, good job, we love you. And so I was like, I'm going to show y'all I'm supposed to be the captain here. And yeah, as I was telling you last night, I'm a competitor at heart. I love competition, and I love pursuing your best in anything that you do, and especially in sport. especially in a team sport. And I recognized the little bit of a psychological edge I had here, because these players, we don't want to, the one-arm guy, we want to let him do kind of well. They let me score a couple times, and then they're like, take away his right, take away his right. The goal be straight ahead, and they're just blocking off on the right. So yes, I developed some really good dodges and techniques and behind-the-back shots and movements that allowed me to excel.
I find that's a competitive or a common theme with people that have had to overcome something, is they're highly competitive. Yeah. And it's not just they want to win, because there's a difference between just wanting to win and just being competitive. Even if it's only with yourself and what you could do before the accident or what happened.
I think about this a lot. I think about this within fitness, with how much I try to showcase what I do and what I can do. And I'm like, am I doing this for me to like remind myself that, Logan, yeah, you can. Yeah, you can. Well, you know what I'm saying? Like, is this self-serving so that I'm like I think our folks, when there's this alteration in their physical ability or condition, and they're a hard charger, high achiever, or strive to be, I think you might become a little bit obsessed with trying to prove yourself to others. Well, because that there's surface level judgment happening every time you're walking through the aisle of the grocery store
too,
and to yourself.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think about
I don't know
that
if that's an entirely bad thing, man.
No,
you know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, I'm aware and I observe that sometimes I get really into being like, let me show you that this is possible. And it fires me up too. Yeah. Like, I love it. And I think that's why, creating solutions in fitness, creating adaptive techniques and equipment that were just solving a need for me, just fire me up. I love just finding solutions.
So after college, I know you've run a couple marathons.
Yeah.
I know you've been a very high level, not just adaptive CrossFit athlete, but just a high level CrossFit athlete. Yeah. You told me about you hang clean and jerked 225 pounds with one hand.
225. Yeah. Well, clean and jerk. Clean
and jerk. Sorry.
I don't know. My hook grip's good. It's not that good, dude. I don't know. That must still rip off of that.
Holy shit, man.
I couldn't believe it. Yeah. And I'm not one to try to say these things to brag. That's not what it is. But I am proud of these accomplishments. Yeah. And these things didn't come about because of like a year of hard work. It was well before losing my arm, it was like my life led me to that opportunity to be able to do something like that at a very young age. I've played every sport. Love soccer, love football, love lacrosse, love baseball, track and field, did them all. Love wakeboarding, love surfing. So my parents knew this kid is super active. He's got to be doing stuff. Yeah. So I was in sports performance training at 10, 11, 12 years old. I learned, hang power cleans. I learned barbell technique at 10, 11, 12, for better or worse, whatever. But I was hitting that stuff at a very young age. Yeah. And it exposed me to the importance of athletic performance training, sports performance training. And, I did that stuff as a really young kid, gymnastics and stuff. So like a lot of body awareness and proprioception stuff. And
that's an important side point. We don't understand how much the training we're doing is going to have impacts far above and beyond just the specific reason we're doing it, just the general adaptations that come from learning how to use and move your body. Yeah. And how if something unexpected happens or you need to be able to do something that's far different from what you're used to, how that can have positive benefits. It's rare that people understand that.
You got to play, you got to play around and explore your body's ability and capabilities. And training for CrossFit competitions is wild. Because what are you training for? You're training for the unknown and unknowable. Yeah. You don't know if it's going to be a bunch of 1 rep max stuff. It's a 1 rep max, and then also go run a half marathon and also go swim these intervals and also, Metcons and everything else in between and strongman, gymnastics, weightlifting. You never know. And my ADD brain loves that because it got to be, different every day and all the time. But I was obsessed with barbell lifts because it was empowering for me. It was like going inward and just focusing on how can I execute this to the best of my ability without necessarily having direct references to follow for technique and execution. Grabbing the bar one-handed in the middle. Yeah. And, that competition where I was able to hit the 225 clean and jerk, weighing like a $165 soaking wet.
That's crazy, dude. Yeah.
Was wild to me. And I think a testament to the consistent approach I had throughout all of the world being shut down in the pandemic. I was trapped myself in my garage 6-7 hours a day training with intention, a lot of specific intention, but always training the competitor in me, thinking someone else is working harder.
Yeah.
Every day, what would get me up out of bed is saying somebody else is working harder than you, Logan. Somebody else is working harder. So it got a little bit crazy where I was really almost burning the candle at both ends. But a culmination of a couple of years like that mixed with the past 10, 15 years prior and my obsession with just trying to never let the excuse or reason why maybe I can't do something be because of my capacity, because of my strength. If it's because of an ability, if you need 2 arms to go down these monkey bars and I got one, I just can't do it. Okay, that's fine. I'm okay with there being some things that I cannot do, but I am not okay with the limitation having been, oh, if you were just a little bit stronger, you'd have been able to do it.
Yeah.
If you had a little bit more mobility, if you had a little bit more muscular endurance or stamina or flexibility, you'd have been able to do it. So I became obsessed with being the Swiss Army knife, sharpening
It is
all
funny
of the tools.
that not just you're able to make adaptations to train, and we're going to go into some of the inventions that you came up with and stuff to train around and through your injury, but to recognize that sometimes something that has nothing to do with your limitation, people allow that to limit them in so many other ways. Like mobility and strength, general strength has nothing to do with missing an arm, but they're like, well, I can't be strong because I'm missing an arm. Well, you can't be strong at a 2-armed lift maybe, but you could apparently with 1 arm, because like you understand that that a clean and a jerk is more than just an arm movement.
Exactly.
And
I'm the biggest proponent in the full body connection between your output.
And it's just so many people that they let things in life limit them that have nothing to do with the specific nature of their disability.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And a lot of that's exactly, it's in between the ears. It's just that muscle in between the ears gets in the way of just taking that first step, that first stride. And what we were talking about in training, keeping it simple. It's easy to overwhelm and complicate when you're focused on the end goal. You're focused on the touchdown.
Yeah.
What if we just tried to just get a first down? Just get one more first down.
Yeah.
And what is that? That's just, can I pick the barbell up consistently, gripping it in the middle? Okay, how can I have a good grip on the bar? Or whatever that might be. But yeah, the 225 clean and jerk in a competition was a 5-minute established 1 mat clean and jerk. And I was going into it saying, all right, 205 would be great. 205 would be great. And the power of adrenaline, man, that just kept going. 205. Whoa, that felt light. 215. Oh my God. I think I could do 225. And, less than a minute on the clock. And I'm like, I got it. I have to know. I'm so curious. I got it. Load it. Quick. And
that's the curious part. I have to know. Being competitive, people the excuse is you're willing to fail.
Yes.
Because people just like to win. They're not really willing to fail, so they won't take those big chances to risk failure.
Right.
But being competitive is like, all right, I might not win. I might get hurt even, but I'm willing to fail because I have to know.
My head can hit the pillow and I can rest easy with that. Doing that. I can rest easy knowing I pushed it a little too far. There's no regrets there. There's no, God, I should have held off. I'm so curious. I'm so interested in getting as close to and flirting with maximum human potential. I think it's a shame to go our lives without pursuing that.
So you've ran a couple marathons. You're an elite Peloton trainer, which I mean, that in of itself is an amazing accomplishment. How selective they are, and
it's incredible. It's the golden ticket of being able to make a living out of teaching fitness and have an impact on a platform that expands way farther than I ever could in person or even through a lot of the social media.
You're not a Peloton trainer to people with disabilities. You're just a Peloton trainer with people that want to get a great workout in.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And while I do have a lot of subject matter expertise in adaptive training, adaptive techniques, not just for upper extremity, but for all conditions and abilities, is a big part of my background and value in the fitness space and at Peloton. I am absolutely always focused on what I do and who I am. First and foremost is like every other person. We are far more alike than unalike. Yeah. Forget the labels, forget the differences. And I'll train all people, all abilities. Yeah. That's the goal and approach and really the intention and purpose behind the awareness and advocacy and representation and education of adaptive training is reminding folks that these are universal design principles. A solution that might work really well for a single arm athlete might be super, super great for somebody who has two arms as well, to create a variation, to create a different adaptation within their body so that they break through a plateau and grow, to not always be symmetrical and bilateral in everything you do. There's so much value. And like we were training today, and you're talking about how you like those single arm dips, like whenever I would work with elite athletes and then put them through simulated adaptive workouts, you're going to do this seated adaptive workout, they would go, oh, I'm incorporating this into my training once a week now. I just got more of a pump, more of a burn, more of a stimulus response in this muscle group or in this way than I've ever had trying to get it in using my full body or all of my resources. So it's great. It's beautiful. And that's what Peloton's offered me, to come on board and be the first, instructor that is an adaptive athlete, but I'm just an instructor. Train everybody. Teach strength. I teach cardio. I teach on the tread. I do some mobility, stretching content and classes. And through your experience with me, you may learn and see some adaptive techniques that I'm having to utilize for things like, renegade row, for example. I'm utilizing an elevated surface on my left side so that shoulder is stable so that I can row with the right and stay in the good plank, But I'm teaching it for two arm, two leg expectation. I'm also teaching it for that single arm individual who wants to be in that class. They're in there right with me. They're represented and seen and shown. And then on top of that, Peloton has been so supportive and recognized a digitally connected fitness platform is the way to meet people where they are. Because yes, we do have the bike, the tread, the rower, but we also have the app. And that app, what does everybody have in their pocket? Is a phone. And what do they do? What's the excuse? Well, the gym's far away, or it's too expensive, or it's not equipped for me. And especially from an adaptive athlete perspective, one of the biggest barriers to entry into pursuing that physical potential within them are the physical barriers of entry. Going to a facility, to a gym, not only logistically, how are you getting there, transportation, what limitations there may be there, but then, yes, we have ADA compliance, but that doesn't necessarily mean everything is truly designed in a way that's functional or accessible for them to thrive. So a way to help eliminate or reduce that psychological barrier is meet them where they are, in their own environment, in their home, in their garage, in a space that is safe and equipped for their needs. And that's what Peloton was able to offer, through being an app through your phone. So I was able to develop with them programs that are for adaptive athletes. We differentiate general categories from standing and seated adaptive athletes, and then have whole training programs for the seated athlete transfer. Because as any individual would know, if you can't do a burpee, what does that mean for transference to quality of life? It means if you fall over, you can't get up. That is direct path towards, issues with longevity, to assisted living, to as we age,
independence.
We can't, to not having quality of life that allows for independence. And for seated athletes, think about how life-changing it is if they do not have the ability to transfer out of the chair, especially to a lower level, like to the ground, and back up. How scary that must be. And then how much of an unlock that must be if they develop the strength, technique, and mobility to create that transfer. That's the burpee. That's why the burpee is important. I know, hate to love them, love to hate them. However you feel about the burpee, you got to do it. And that's the same for the seat transfer. So that's my little soapbox, because I go on a little rant about that because it is precious to me and it is sacred, and it is such a massive, unique value that nowhere else in the world, in the fitness world, has this. And it's not just me. Don't take my word for it. Brought in a very close friend and colleague of mine, Tom Miazga, who's an incredibly accomplished seated adaptive athlete, CrossFit athlete, and Paralympian gold medalist many years in a row, many Paralympics in a row, and phenomenal athlete. And he came in and taught that with me on the Peloton platform. So you see him and how he executes this, and we train you up to get the strength. And so, yes, it's been an honor for the past 4 years, incredible gift and opportunity to get to that Peloton platform and spread not only that awareness, but also the mentality of a rising tide lifts all boats. Everybody deserves the opportunity to pursue. Let's democratize fitness and get everybody the chance to have it meet them where they are and get fit.
Absolutely. You also invented a couple cool things I got to see today.
Yeah.
Deadlift harness.
Yeah.
So, you talk about the importance of being able to symmetrically and bilaterally work your posterior chain and things like that, and that having one hand was limiting that because you can pick up stuff with one arm, but it was causing a lot of imbalances. So you came up with a harness to where you can lift a very heavy weight to get that central nervous system stimulus, and I thought it was an ingenious. We can link that in the show notes.
Well, thanks. Yeah. Listen, always from the perspective of keep it simple. I mean, it literally started obviously out of a need, identifying even my dumb brain and fitness recognized a couple months into CrossFit, just doing everything one point of contact, one hand. I was like, I don't think over a long period of time this is going to be the best for developing me for longevity so that I can live a functional life and transfer all this training into the real world. And also, let's be honest, in the real world, you do pick things up with one hand a lot. Yeah. But you might go back and forth. You don't always pick things up with one side, one hand.
And it's not just about picking things up, it's just about systemic strength.
Systemic strength, yes. And that's what I've recognized. And just a few months in, because I've always been in the gym every day. So I had developed a lot of great strength for CrossFit, and I recognized this plateau is happening. This unilateral plateau was happening. And being able to just incorporate that side with a strap around my shoulder at first, just continuing to innovate on it and getting to what is deemed the Aldridge arm. And the Aldridge arm is exactly that, a tool created out of necessity for myself, but allows you to incorporate that upper extremity that may be neglected or avoided due to not just an amputation. It could be some limb difference. It could be an elbow issue. It could be a partial hand amputation.
Well, you brought up like an elite lifter because bicep tears are very common. Yes. High-level deadlifters, and they were able to keep deadlifting because they didn't have to worry about grabbing the bar on that side anymore.
This dude was like, I was like, hey man, sign a waiver so that we can test this, but you know, don't be coming at me if the Velcro pops off. But the tension testing we've done for the carabiner and for even the daisy chain and all of that is, with safety in mind. Absolutely, last thing I want is an adaptive product to then cause an injury or to make someone more adaptive. So
I think we kind of figured out a way
have
today.
Been over like 1,100 pounds, and this dude, I mean, he started pulling 700, 800, and I was like, oh my god! And it held, and he's a big advocate for it. So it's cool. Yes, it's universal application in that sense as well. It's great for just a temporary injury.
I think we figured out a way today, or maybe you can Zercher squat with it.
Oh, dude, we just broke through. Yeah, this bicep's about to. I'm coming after you now, man. I'm about to be Zercher. Yeah, and that felt really cool.
Also, really jump rope. You came up with a one-arm jump rope, which is amazing. Yeah. I got to see that today. That's pretty cool.
Massive testament to a lacrosse shaft. I'll tell you what, in that background of having played and just the brain I have when I was presented, I thought I'd thought through all of the different variations and exercises and movements that get presented often in that CrossFit world. And then about 2 weeks in, when they say, and today we jump rope, and I went, oh, shit. How do I do that one? And I remember trying to anchor it to like a squat rack or something. I tried a few different things, and it didn't really work out. I think in that workout I did like plate hops or something. Yeah. And I was like, but nah, I didn't like it. And I went home that night and was racking my brain. And I just looked in the corner, saw some lacrosse shafts. And I said, let me grab one, and stuck the handles in either end, taped them up, went down in the garage and did like 100 single unders with it bouncing. Awesome, I said, dude. Here we go. So yeah, it's just solving. I think the best inventions are that they're just solving a problem. It's just finding a solution to a need you have, and then recognizing that, again, you're not alone. There's other people that have that same need, and that's the beauty of the internet. That's been the beauty of social media, is for me to use this open source approach where if I find this and I don't say, hey, I have just what you need. No, I say, hey, here was my problem. Here's what I used. Here's how I'm doing it. Let me know what you think. Let me know if this would work for you or if you have a better idea on how to do it. Same with tying my shoes one-handed, cutting my fingernails one-handed. I like putting that stuff out there. It's little life hacks for one-arm folks, but it's also, I want feedback. I want to hear. I love that because that's what innovation is. Innovation is just open source sharing.
It's one of the good things about social media.
Yeah.
It's a way for us to connect and share ideas. And so before we close out, I want to recap some key takeaways here. When what happened to you, the first thing you exhibited was gratitude for what you had. The second thing you did was you asked a question instead of making a statement. How can I do this now instead of I can't do this now?
Yeah.
Another thing you did was you questioned your limiting beliefs. You recognize the importance of who you were looking at as examples, what you believed was possible. The final thing is like the importance of being competitive. and not accepting it and being curious.
Yes.
Wondering what is possible rather than just telling yourself what is possible. It's part of the how can I do this, and then just always wondering and looking towards what you can do with what you have left and focusing on your tools that you have in your toolbox rather than the ones that happen to be missing.
Exactly.
Is there anything else that you'd like to add to that, to people that like are having some kind of obstacle, not just physical, but an obstacle that they have to overcome? Is there anything you'd like to add to that?
No, that's exactly right. And that's the intention of explaining my story in this way is I hope, and you've done it. Thank you for that summary. Very well summarized in a simple way to understand kind of a general template to it. Attitude is everything. The lens at which you look at the world, your life, and the situation or scenario.
I think I missed one, the importance of getting moving immediately. Don't wait for things to be perfect.
Take action.
Take action immediately.
Take action.
Yeah.
The thing you put off is the thing that you need to do now. Always.
That's so true, man.
Always. So it's get up and win the morning.
I'll clean my truck tomorrow.
Yeah, no, we got to go do it right after this. No, you said it. But no, that's exactly right. And I think it's a message of management of those expectations. That's what it comes down to. I think to summarize all of that is, let's stop expecting what is supposed to be or how I should be or what should happen or how I should be treated or how and let's take action and get started. Be the change. If you're the change, that stuff's contagious. You encourage others.
Yeah.
And that's why I love the quote from Michael Jordan. I say this one in North Carolina boy, MJ. Yeah. But if we accept the expectations of others, especially the negative ones, we'll never change the outcome.
That's so true.
And that's what it is.
You guys actually have two, you got Lawrence Taylor too, is from North Carolina. He played ball there in college. So you got Michael Jordan and Lawrence Taylor.
Oh, we got.
Are you a Tar Heel fan? Or are you like an NC State fan?
This is tough. I know. It's cardinal sin here, but UNC. I was a UNC lacrosse ball boy. Went to UNC. My mom went to UNC. I went to UNC Wilmington. My dad went to NC State.
Okay.
My dad went to NC State. He played baseball at NC State. One of my closest friends went to Duke, played basketball at Duke. His name's Ryan Kelly. He went on to play for the Lakers and then go overseas and play in European ball. So I'm the worst because I like UNC, I like NC State, and I like Duke.
Okay, yeah.
Tough.
Yeah.
Tough. Cardinal sin. But yeah, no, North Carolina, man, we are basketball through and through. We love it. Yeah.
So what's next for you, man? What you got going on now? What's your next goal? What's on the list of things?
I'm just gonna try to become like Judd. I'm trying to become as big as you. No, man, it's more of this approach to how can, as I'm 34 years old now, and I'm so thankful for my life, my career, and the opportunity to be a beginner and new at things.
Yeah.
So while the CrossFit and my background and, track and field, 100 meter, 200 meter, fast stuff, velodrome cycling, power, sprint, speed, running the marathons was a really cool opportunity for me getting out of my comfort zone and doing something, the antithesis of what my body loves to do.
There's nothing comfort zone about running a marathon.
Bro, it was. Listen, more power to you. Love all of you that run marathons, but your boy is not doing more of those. But it was great and a really good reminder, again, of capacity, of potential, of, if you get curious, truly how much you can change, transform, and adapt your body. Anything is possible. And so now I'm really interested and passionate about hybrid training, that cross-training approach, but not cross-training from that CrossFit perspective, but from this be very conditioned, build that aerobic capacity while having the power, speed, and strength to fluidly mix and combine the two. And so the event, the sport, the competition I'm chasing after now is high rocks competitions.
Nice.
So I'm competing in those and on my way to trying to accomplish the goal of becoming a world champion high rocks competitor.
I have no doubt you will.
We'll see. If you keep training me, man, let's go. Come on.
Yeah, so we did a long form today on how hybrid athletes can train.
Yeah,
and,
really cool. Really cool stuff.
Soon. Yeah.
Cannot wait for that to be shared because it's exactly what I need to hear, and I know so many others that I've trained with and worked with could benefit from too. You do such a great job at simplifying and articulating in a very digestible way for anybody, regardless of their experience and understanding of exercise science and fitness, of like what we said numerous times in your discussion, keeping it simple, maximizing the minutes spent in the gym, not needing to be warming up for so long. It's important to warm up very thoroughly, but so many great nuggets that I learned from you today. So thank you for all of that. I continue to just absorb all the information you put out and share, and I listen to all your episodes, and love your stuff, man. So thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's an honor to have you, man. Great talk. And I think if people listen to this and took it to heart, that they could definitely take a look at their lives, because we all have obstacles that some might not be as apparent as a physical obstacle, but we all have obstacles that we've used as excuses, myself included. Yeah. And to take a long, hard look at those and really ask ourselves, is this truly a limiting factor for me? Or is it a belief and a narrative that I'm telling myself that is causing this limitation?
Yeah. And I have those moments too. You know, we're all human. We're far more alike than unalike. So don't beat yourself up. Just, step up, stand up, take a deep breath, take that first step. Just start taking action. Momentum's everything.
There you go. Thank you, man. Great talk.
Thank you.